Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you guys are well. I'm doing a live stream here. I'm just checking if it's working on the YouTube channel. Okay, so if you guys got any questions, you can put your questions in the comments, inshallah. Just posting this up onto Facebook. So, learning Arabic grammar. This is a really tough question, this is, because a lot of people have been asking me this, and if you're probably studying Arabic yourself, you know that what tends to happen is you are very enthusiastic about learning Arabic, and so you start a course, maybe you study somewhere, or you study online, or you just read, you do your own personal studying and read some books here and there. Now, what tends to happen is because you're not really prepared for the Arabic language, after, let's say, a month, 2 months, 3 months, you get, totally burnt out, you dry up, you have no zeal to learn anymore, and then you give up Arabic grammar. So, in this little live stream I'm doing here, if you've got any questions, you can put them up, inshallah, and I'll be talking a bit about my personal experiences in learning Arabic grammar and what I found very useful as well for people. Okay, so question here, Salam, can you tell me the sequence of Nahu books? The thing about that is, because there are so many books that are written out there are loads and loads and loads of books that are written out there. And I haven't really studied all of them. I've studied, you don't have to study all of them. As long as you've studied the main ones at every level, that's enough really. And then after that, you could do your own personal reading and advance. And a lot of these books are just, repeating the same things that have been written previously as well. So, okay, what did I study? So, first of all, I studied a book called An-Nahwu al-Wadih. So, Nahwu al-Wadih is a book. It's a 3-volume book. I don't have it here. It's written by Egyptians. And the problem with the Arabic books that generally people study is that they're written for an Arab audience. Yeah, so it's not like for me and you, whose language is predominantly English. So we've got a big problem when we're trying to read these, because they're written for an Arabic audience. So we've got to make ourselves Arabs, and then we can only understand it. So my personal first suggestion would be, if you want to study Arabic grammar, first of all, you got to do either one of two things. You got to either become an Arab. Yeah, there's some sort of pills out there that you can take, or some operation you can have and become an Arab. Yeah. If that's not possible, the second thing you have to do is you have to be able to immerse yourself in Arabic. Yeah. So immerse yourself in Arabic, learn the Arabic language, read texts, try and speak a bit of Arabic, get the gist of Arabic. So because of that, what I basically done was I devised a course. It's called the Quranic Arabic 17 Lessons. You've probably seen on the YouTube channel. And the idea of this course was, it's a 17 lessons. It gets you into the main topics of the Arabic grammar. Then it puts you into the Quran. So when you start studying the Quran, you see these grammatical rules all over the place. So you can do basic structure of the Arabic language from the Quran. That's basically the aim of it. And then after that, now when you start studying those same books, you'll say, oh yeah, remember we talked about this, when we talked about this. Now it all starts to fit together now. Because in your mind, you've got the gist of what the Arabic language is about, like from A to Z. You've got an overview of everything, a bird's eye view. You can see it from the top, right? And then just like a bird, what tends to happen is that the bird goes down and starts to see the details more. So that's what you guys need to do, or that's what, if you want to study the Arabic language, you need to do. First of all, before you go into Arabic, try to get a bird's eye view of what you're going to get yourself into. Yeah, do like a course, the 17 lessons course you can do, or you can do anything similar that someone's done. So you do this course, and then through this course, what happens is that now when you want to embark on the journey of learning Arabic, you won't have that fear of, oh no, what am I going to study? Because like yesterday I was speaking to one of my students, and what he said to me was that in the beginning, what happened was when I was learning Arabic, when I thought I mastered a topic, every time I would try to go into that topic, the next lesson I'd learn something totally different. So because of this, what happened was that I became into such a situation where I thought, that's it, I'm never going to learn Arabic now. Because every time I'm trying to learn something, I master it, something totally alien comes to me. Yeah, so this is why it's very important. Now he says he's reached a level that when he goes through like the Ajurumiyya course that I've done as well on YouTube, it's a free course that I've done, and you can watch that on the YouTube channel. Now he says when he goes back to that, what happens is it starts to make sense. The same things that we studied in the beginning, or he studied in the beginning rather, now that he's going over it, now it's starting to make more sense because now he's got the overview, right? So he knows what to expect. Yeah, so now he's just going into the details of it now. So that's whenever you learn the Arabic language, remember that. And this is possibly for all sciences really. Get an overview, right? Try and understand, okay, what do I study first, then next, then after that, then right at the end, what do I study? And then when you go into level 2, intermediate, then you start to look at more details. So for instance, like, if you're going to be studying, let's say something like Mubtada. Now, Mubtada, if you don't know what I'm talking about, yeah, trust me, there's probably lots of people out there who hear the word Mubtada and they just get confused. Those people who've studied Mubtada, they've got an idea of what Mubtada is about. Okay, Mubtada, I know that. That's just a nominal sentence that is, or that's just a normal sentence with nouns that is, with the ism, with the khabar, Mubtada, and it's marfu, and they know all these little rules attached to it. Yeah. So now when you study more in detail, then you start to enjoy it. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to talk about. All right. Remember, if you got any questions, you can post them, inshallah. Right, what books? So I studied An-Nahw al-Wadih, and I actually studied the Arabic grammar through Arabic, which I didn't know a word of Arabic. Yeah, and I just threw myself into the deep end, and I was studying a language that I didn't have no idea of, and I was studying it through that language as well. So imagine you're learning Japanese from a teacher who only speaks Japanese. Yeah, you're gonna have a big problem there, unless you know Japanese, obviously. So anyway, so I studied Hidayat al-Nahw, and the good thing about Hidayat Nahw al-Wadih is it's got like exercises. So implementation is the second point that you need to do. Whenever you study rules, always try and implement. Otherwise, in reality, what tends to happen is there's people out there who are studying Arabic so much. But when you give them verses of the Quran, let's say, or when you give them an Arabic text and you say, okay, can you read this without the vowels on there? They get stuck, and they get embarrassed because they've studied all of this Arabic, and now when it comes to the time of application, they find it very tough. And I used to have a friend who was an Arab, I remember, and so he was a roommate of mine, so when I used to study. And when I used to read, right, I used to try to implement what I was learning. Yeah, so at every step of the way, I'd stop, I'd read, and I found it a bit like kind of tedious. I kind of found it a bit long-winded because it would take me a long time to kind of go through it. And this is probably something you guys experience as well. So anyway, so this guy was a good guy. So this guy didn't know much of Arabic grammar, but the thing was, he was very good in being able to spot mistakes. So I used to tell him, just sit there for 5 minutes for me, please. So I'd let him sit there. I'd probably give him some chocolate or something, and he'd sit there and he'd just listen to me, and then I'd read it. He'd say, stop. I said, what? He said, you said dhamma there, and you're not supposed to. I go, why? He goes, I don't know why, but he goes, it just doesn't sound right. So when I'd check, he's right. Yeah, it was like maybe it was a fa'il, and I was treating it as a maf'ul bihi. So like that, I used to go through texts daily. That's the other third thing that you need to do, right? Which is try and get hold of someone else. And this is where self-study fails. Get hold of someone. Maybe you can have Skype lessons with someone. You get in touch with an Arab or someone even who's a little bit learned. And even if you have to pay them, right, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or regular, just 5 minutes, just say to them, if I read a text to you, could you just spot the mistakes for me? Just like, when you're learning how to read tajweed, you're learning how to read Quran. What do people do? They just sit with a teacher, and then the teacher listens and just spots the mistakes and corrects them. Just do that, trust me. It is very, very powerful. And because a lot of people don't take this seriously, what happens is that they don't progress in their Arabic, and they're unable to read, proficiently or fluently as well. So this is one thing. And I used to have a student, friend rather, who, when I was studying, and he was from Malaysia. I think it was Malaysia he's from. And every morning after Fajr, in the morning, he would just read aloud. He would read aloud, and he would just read. And it was like, one day it was one book, and one day it was another book. And he would just read aloud to himself like people read the Quran. And I thought to myself, why is he doing this for? So then I asked, and he said that I do this so that I'm able to pronounce the words correctly. Yeah, so I can pronounce them more and more. So this is another good thing as well, reading aloud. Anyway, so after I studied Hidayah Nahw al-Wadih, the second year I studied a book called Nahw al-Wadih, Hidayat al-Nahw rather. Hidayat al-Nahw. So the first year I studied Nahw al-Wadih, it's 3 volumes, and then there's another book which is taught in Indian subcontinent, which is known as Hidayat al-Nahw. Right, and Hidayat al-Nahw is a small book. Let me see if there's one over here. Okay, there's one over here. Yeah. Right, so this is basically Hidayat al-Nahw. Yeah, it's 1 volume. You're probably seeing the writing backwards because I've got the front-facing camera on. So this is basically it. Now you see this book. The difference between this book and Hidayat al-Nahw is big. Nahw al-Wadih has lots of examples in there, and it's very, very kind of basic approach. It explains things to you as a proper beginner. Yeah, like as though you've never learned grammar before, but like I said, to an Arab audience. This is written in a very dense text. So this is another problem that you get in Arabic books, especially the grammar books, where the author had lots of knowledge, and what he wanted to do was to write a dense text which could be memorized by students, and then he'd explain it to them. So there's 2 benefits in that, twofold. One is that you memorize the information, and the second is that when he explains it to you, what happens is that kind of thing that you've memorized, it attaches itself to the explanation. Yeah, so this is another thing that you can possibly do, memorization. So I used to try to memorize this book as much as I could. So it's like a small text, and it's very, very useful for that. There's other texts you can memorize as well if you like. And memorization, remember, guys, if you don't like memorizing, you're in the wrong field. Yeah, you have to memorize. Okay, you don't have to memorize the way, let's say, I memorize, or maybe the way the next person memorizes, but you need to get yourself some sort of a way to memorize things. Maybe you can put things on flashcards, maybe you can record things and listen to it over and over again. So there's various different ways of memorization and things that can help you. So this is a good book. The only drawback with this book, I would say, is that because the text and the wording is kind of so rigid, or not rigid, rather it's not really a normal Arabic kind of text. It's quite academic text, the wording is. So a lot of students, when they study this and they don't really have understanding of Arabic, just being able to read and understand Arabic, right, and they're using this as their primary source for learning Arabic as well as learning grammar, they get stuck. Loads of students get stuck. Yeah, and the student would read this and say, what does he mean by haqiqiyan? What does he mean by hukman? What does he mean by mudmaran and barizan? So because the language is so alien, a lot of students get put off this book. And personally, I would say this is not a good book to start off with. Yeah, I mean, I think you don't have to study this book. Yeah, this is not a very good book to start off with for students who are using this as a primary text for learning Arabic as well as learning grammar. Right? Don't use this. If you wanna read something like this, either read it like later on, or after reading, getting used to Arabic text itself. So like Qasasun Nabiyyin, read all the four parts of that or the five parts of that, and then come on to this. Right? And that way, what will happen is, you overcome the problem of trying to familiarize yourself with a lot of wording. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah. Okay. So this is the second book, and I remember we studied this book from the teacher who we studied this from was actually he was from Azhar University. He was an Arab, he was an Egyptian scholar, and he had a master's degree in Arabic grammar, and he would teach us this book in 10 minutes. Yeah, every day he'd come, he had a 1 hour lesson. He'd come, he'd just sit there, and in 10 minutes he would summarize the entire lesson, and in an amazing way he would do. And see, that's key. That's another good thing to remember, or a point that you can note down, which is get yourself an expert teacher. Don't just get yourself a teacher who knows Arabic grammar. Get yourself a teacher who knows how to explain as well. There's lots of people out there who maybe are very knowledgeable, but that's not enough. You need someone who can impart their knowledge onto other people. And you've probably seen this as well. There's someone out there who is very, very, very good at explaining something. Might not be really knowledgeable, but he's very good at making you understand things. That's the kind of people that you want to look for. Yeah, try to find them, and there's lots of them out there. There's lots of gems out there, people, and find them, inshallah, and tell me about them as well, so I can learn from them as well, inshallah. Okay, let me just look at one of your questions. What do you think of Bayna Yadayk books? Okay, Arabiya Bayna Yadayk. I haven't studied this book. I've taught this book. Yeah, so this is a book that I've taught. I've taught it for many years, maybe 4 or 5 years. I've taught it to probably 8 to 9, 10 classes even. So I've got a lot of experience in teaching that book. I personally, don't like teaching that book on its own. That book is actually designed for someone who's not going to go through this system, studying the academic grammar books. So it's actually designed 3 volumes. You cover from beginning all the way to the end. It's broken down into chapters. In the beginning, the first volume is like in conversations. I don't know, about 14 or 15 chapters with conversations in there. So you learn conversation. So you immerse yourself in Arabic first of all. You don't focus on rules so much. Then second volume, you focus more on comprehension and trying to understand text and speaking as well. And then third volume, it goes a bit advanced, right? And so if you do all 3 of them and you do it consistently, you can reach a very good level in understanding Arabic. But remember this, if you finish all of that, you won't reach the level where you can understand the intricacies of like the structure of the Quran. For that you would have to study a dedicated subject for Arabic grammar. But Arabic Bayna Yadayk, if you study all 3 volumes, at the end of it you'd reach a level, let's say, imagine 100% of Arabic. Oh, that way, yeah, 100% Arabic. You'd probably reach, I would say, 60 or 70. Yeah, 60 or 70, and a very good level, if I say, inshallah. Okay, so after I studied this book, right, I studied another book. It was called Sharh ibn Aqil. So Sharh ibn Aqil, this is a book, and let me see, is there one over here? No, I don't think there's one over here. Sharh ibn Aqil. No, I don't have one over here. Right, so basically, okay, what is Sharh ibn Aqil? So in history, when scholars were writing their grammar books, one of the genres of grammar books was poetry. So because poetry is something easy to remember for a lot of people, so what the scholar would do is he would take all of what he knew and he would summarize it into these poems, and they would usually write, let's say, about 1,000 couplets. Yeah, 1,000, or just about approximately 1,000, give or take. And they would call these the alfiyas. So this became a trend. In like after the 500-600 years after the demise of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the kind of era that poetry became a trend. So you take your science and you put it into poetry. And again, like I said before, the aim of this is to make a person able to memorize it. Memorization was key because if someone didn't memorize the science, understanding comes with knowing, remembering. So if you can't remember something, the understanding isn't really going to help you because you can only understand it when you look at a book, which isn't really considered to be knowledge in itself amongst the scholars. Um, so, so this book has been written by a scholar called Imam Ibn Malik. So Ibn Malik, he wrote this. Now other scholars wrote it and they had famous ones, Alfiyat Ibn Mu'ti, and Imam Suyuti has Alfiya in a few sciences, and I don't think he has one in Nahu, in Arabic grammar, but he has one in Hadith studies. So Ibn Malik, he wrote this and he became famous because what he done was he made it very dense and he kind of wrote the book in such a way that he, number one, he mentions the issues, the issues that are covered in the topic, and it indicates towards them. Number two is that he gives examples with it as well. And number three, he gives subtle indications towards differences of opinions amongst grammarians in certain issues. Yeah, so these are three key features of Alfiya ibn Malik. So when you study Alfiya ibn Malik, it's not a very good thing to do if you're a first timer. Yeah, study Alfiya ibn Malik later on. Study as you're at level 3 maybe, after the third book, or advanced. Because, it's just going to confuse you more because you're going to be focusing on how do I render this poem into a normal sentence, and how do I understand it, and how do we take this out of it. Yeah, so it's like someone who hasn't learned English and they don't know English, or go back to Japanese. Imagine a Japanese poem trying to learn Japanese through Japanese poetry. Again, you're just putting lots and lots of difficulties upon yourself. So I wouldn't advise a person to study Alfiya unless they've studied a few books before. Okay, so I studied Sharh ibn Aqil, and that's one of the commentaries of it, and it's a good commentary because it explains the text. It goes into a bit of the differences of opinions, and it mentions what is called shawahid as well, which is because Arabic grammar, there's just like we have dalils for fiqh, yeah, like the dalil for praying salat in this manner, or the dalil for fasting in this manner, right? You have dalils for Arabic grammar as well, and they have their own set of laws, Arabic grammar does. And then you have schools of thought within Arabic grammar itself. So when you study Alfiya ibn Malik, what you want to study now is where do these schools get these opinions from? Let me give you an example. For instance, like a mubtada. If I give you a sentence, if I said to you, Zaydun salihun, Zayd is pious. See the word Zayd itself, we call this a mubtada. That's what the name they coined with it. The problem with this is any word, any noun in the Arabic language, the vowel must have something that has governed it. Yeah. So for example, imagine like this. Imagine, you have a cup of tea, right? And that cup of tea has water in there, it has milk in there, it has tea bag in there, maybe sugar in there. So this cup of tea, someone has affected it. Someone has added the sugar, someone has added the milk, someone has added water to it, someone has added tea bag to it. Now, let's say, for example, I said to you, the man made the tea. So who's affected the tea? It's the man. So this is known as an amil, a governor, right? Now the problem with a mubtada is we don't know who the governor is because it comes right at the beginning of the sentence. There is nothing before it for us to attribute the effect on that thing that came before because there's nothing there, right? The sentence starts with Zaydun qa'im salihun. So because of this, the grammarians have this big discussion. Yeah, and they start discussing, okay, who is the one? And so because of that discussion, each group has their own. So some say, this is one of the words in Arabic. This is the only word in Arabic that is unaffected by anything, right? And they just state that. Some say, no, wait a minute. This is a word in Arabic which is governed by the beginning. In other words, the concept of beginning, because it's occurred at the beginning of the sentence, it occurring at the beginning has made this. Like a cup of tea has come into existence because it's a cup of tea. And the other guys go, nah, we don't believe in that, There always has to be something. So you get that. And then you get other opinions. Oh, it's actually the khabar, which came after it, that has affected the word before it. So you get what I mean? Yeah, so this is how it gets about. This is how it gets, interesting. But you don't want to go into that issue before you've actually studied, Arabic grammar. Study Arabic grammar, understand Arabic grammar, and if you're really interested in going into all these nuances of ikhtilafs and differences of opinions, then by all means go into it. Okay, so let's look at the questions. What about qawaid nahwiyya? Qawaid nahwiyya, I don't understand what you mean by that. If you mean by that rules of Arabic grammar, then yes, all books of Arabic grammar contain rules. But if it's the name of a specific book, qawaid nahwiyya, then I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I haven't really come across that book. So yeah, that was the third book that I studied in Arabic grammar, which was interesting as well. But the only drawback that I saw when I studied that book was I wasn't really prepared for that book. That's the truth. Yeah, I was academically, I hadn't reached that level which I could benefit a lot myself from that book. Because when you study a book, what I personally believe is you should have zeal to want to know about the exact description of what you're going to be studying, the content of the book. And sometimes, like, you study a book, you'll understand what it's talking about, but because you're not mentally prepared for that book, you don't absorb all the information. Like, you absorb 50% of it, or you absorb 40% of it, or 30, or you got what I mean. Okay, Sam, could you do tarkeebs of different surahs? Yeah, tarkeebs of different surahs. If you go onto my YouTube page, I've done some. Yeah, on my YouTube channel, I've done some. You can find them in there. If you go through the videos, you'll find. I think I did Surah Al-Qadr, Surah Zilzal, and other surahs as well. So you can go through that. I was doing a series on Surah Yusuf as well. So you can look at that, inshallah. And truly, if I had time, if I had free time, I would try and dedicate and cover all of the Arabic grammar I can cover and put it onto YouTube so all of you guys can benefit. But the problem is my time is just so restricted. I just get like free bits and bobs here and there. So, but inshallah, make dua. Allah makes it easy. Okay, what does your name mean? Does it come from Arabic? My name, Liaqat. Yeah, Liaqat. My name is Liaqat Zaman. So Zaman is an Arabic word. Yeah, Zaman, which means era or times. And Liaqat, I actually looked into this and I found that it actually comes from the word liyaqa. Liyaqa. Yeah, so liyaqa. And liyaqa in the Arabic language, it means stamina. Yeah, so I'm the stamina of time. Yeah, I'm the gold medalist in stamina of time. Yeah, so that's Wallahu alam. Don't know, my granddad, may Allah have mercy on him, he named me that. So I don't know why he named me that. So yeah, that's what it means, inshallah. So yeah, so I studied basically that. The fourth book that I studied after this, right, was I studied a book which is called, do I have it here? No, I don't have it here. If I do find it, I'll show you guys. It's called Sharh Mulla Al-Jami. Sharh Mulla Al-Jami. So Sharh Mulla Al-Jami, this is basically, there's another book which is studied in certain places known as Kafiya. I've studied that as well. Okay, but I didn't study it with that. I studied it a bit later. So Kafiya is a book written by Imam Ibn Hajib. So Ibn Hajib was a Maliki scholar, famous, and he wrote this book, Ibn Hajib, which was Nahu. He wrote on Sarf, and he's written on Usul as well and other topics as well. So he wrote this book, and it's a very dense, again another dense, he was in the dense ages where he just wanted to put all of his knowledge and he wanted to condense it as small as possible. Yeah, and it was almost like putting everything into acronyms. Yeah, he says something like this. He says, Al-kalimatu lafdhun wudi'a ismun lafdhun wudi'a li ma'na mufradin. That's it. He goes, Al-ismu lafdhun wudi'a li ma'na mufradin. Kalimatun lafdhun wudi'a li ma'na mufradin. Kalima, a word, is lafdhun, is something that you utter that has been placed for a single meaning. So a word, if I say to you like pen, so pen is a word that was placed for this object that has only one meaning. Yeah, so this word pen does not, I don't use the word pen here for two meanings, it's only for one meaning. So they go into discussion. So this book Sharh Mullah Al-Jami. It's the philosophy of Nahu. It incorporates lots of sciences in trying to explain Nahu. So you can imagine like this, like a polymath, like a guy who knows many languages or many sciences rather. So what he does is he wants to use all of his sciences, everything he knows to try and explain grammar. Yeah. So imagine like an engineer or a mechanic, and he's an expert in mechanic and engineering, and he wants to explain to you how to make a tea through engineering. And let's say there's a mathematician, and he's an expert in mathematics, and he wants to explain to you how to make a cup of tea through mathematics. You get what I'm saying? So scholars started to do this. So this book is very, very good because the benefit of this is it kind of exposes you to other things out there. It opens your mind to grammar and how it works and how other people used to, perceive certain things as well. So that was a very, I didn't study all of it, I studied a section of it. That was a very challenging book, very, very challenging book, yeah. And like they say, it was a book that used to do your head in. Okay, Allah reward you for the efforts. Ameen, Ameen. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so my goal is to understand the books of the scholars in Arabic, Ghazali, Ibn Abidin, etc. I have done some good amount of grammar. What should I do next? Learn a lot of. Okay, so what should you do? So this is to answering to a priori. Is that how I pronounce it? So what I would suggest for you to do now is you need to start reading books to someone. Yeah, grab hold of someone and just start reading a book. So for example, like let's say a book which is known as Ahkam al-Quran by Imam Jassas. Yeah? Whether you understand it, whether you don't understand, don't worry about that. Do not worry. Just start reading. قال أبو بكر في قول من قال إنها لا تزيل. So keep going through it. So go through it as much as you can. Read. And make sure that you read it to them so that you're correcting yourself. And whenever you make a mistake, try and understand why you made that mistake. Yeah, so that way what will happen is you're implementing your Arabic grammar as well. Okay, and vocabulary, trust me, vocabulary will come. Yeah, you're always going to need a dictionary on the side to learn whatever book you're learning. Yeah, but the thing is, application of grammar is key. Okay, let's look at another question then. I finished Hidayat al-Nahu. What book should I study next? Do you think I should study Kafia? Yeah, so Kafia, go for it. Go for Kafia. You can study Kafia, or if you like, what you can study is you can study a commentary of like Ajurumiyya. I think there's is it called Al-Bahiyya or something like that, the commentary of Ajurumiyya. That's a very good one. You can read it on your own as well. Yeah, it's nicely laid out and it's very easy to follow. So it's good. Another book that you can read is a book by a Sheikh Fadil Samurai. Yeah, it's called I think it's called Nahu al-Arabi or something like that. Yeah, it's in 2 volumes. You can get this Fadil Samurai and just read that book. It is very easy to follow. Trust me, the Arabic is extremely nice. It uses Quranic examples to explain stuff. So I would suggest you read that. Yeah, go for that. Okay, and besides that, I've got a whole list of other books that I've come across that are very easy to follow as well in Arabic grammar. Okay, a lot to say that Medina books are not beneficial. My person, I don't think it's good for conversation. Medina books I haven't studied, and I haven't really taught the Medina books. I've seen them. I've read through them personally myself. Teaching Arabic grammar, it's all to do with the teacher. Simple as that. Personally, I say to the students that I teach, if you give me 3 months and you give me half an hour every single day, I can get you to read Arabic, write Arabic, and speak Arabic. Yeah, and I've done it before with some people. Alhamdulillah, I'm not boasting or anything, but I'm just showing you, look, it's possible. If you've got a structured system in place and you know exactly how to tap into the student and what his weakness is and what exercise you need to focus on that student, right? You can make a person learn a language extremely quick. Yeah. So, but the problem is when you don't have a good teacher and the teacher is just kind of going through the normal protocol of teaching and following the steps in the book, what happens is there's a student sitting there and he hasn't grasped certain idea, another one has, and he's focusing on the good student, and the weak student is kind of falling behind and finding it very difficult, and then he feels demotivated. So there needs to be like a teacher needs to know, okay, you know what, these two students, they're very weak, don't put them together, put them with this student. This student, he doesn't understand, he can't understand a statement when it's said to him, but he can understand it when it's read to him, when he reads it himself. So what you need to focus on is an exercise that will improve his listening skills. Yeah, so you need to tweak, each teacher needs to tweak their method for different classes. So you don't have like the same brush that you brush everyone with. That's my personal experience, that is. Yeah, inshallah, you can do that. And I know one of my teachers, Sheikh Abdul Razak Iskandar, may Allah give him long life and good actions. He said he actually taught a student once, it was many years ago, 30, 40 years ago possibly. He said he in the 60s rather. He said he taught a student from Korea Arabic language through Surah Fatiha, just through Surah Fatiha. He said, yeah, and he's the one that's written the book called At-Tariqa Al-Asriya. Yeah. Okay, reply to the person above. Medina books are really good, but builds and foundation. Okay, what's the best way of learning Sarf and Nahu? I have an exam on both. Yeah, the best way is to learn it from someone. Yeah, you're gonna have to learn it from someone. I mean, you can do self-studies. It depends how good you are in self-studies. There's lots of online courses that you can do. But Sarf is two things in Sarf: memorization and understanding conjugations, how conjugations change a word. That's all you have to remember. Sarf. Any good practical introductions to Balagha? I mean, you look on my YouTube channel. I've got a few videos I've made on Balagha, so you can check that out, inshallah. The thing about Balagha is, what I would say about Balagha is a lot of, because I studied Balagha. I remember I studied a few books. I studied Durusul Balagha. I studied Al-Balagha Al-Wadiha. What else? I studied Talkhis Al-Miftah. I studied Al-Mutawwal, Mukhtasar Al-Ma'ani by Taftazani. And I did a lot of implementation of Balagha as well. Yeah, with my teacher, he did a lot of implementation of Balagha. So basically, what I found was, when a student studies Balagha, he's got another hurdle in front of him. And that is, if you don't know Arabic grammar very well, Balagha, you're not going to understand it. You'll probably understand 40% of Balagha, 30%, but you can't appreciate the Balagha. That's the first problem I find in Balagha books. The second thing that I find in Balagha books, which is a big problem, is that Balagha books focus a lot on poetry, and so they expect the student to be familiar with a lot of poems. So when you're learning the rules and you're trying to understand the poem itself and then you're implementing the rule onto the poem, it's just all confusing. Yeah, so this is normally what happens. So very rarely will you get books that focus just on the Quran. I mean, there are some books written by Sheikh Fadl Samurai, like I said, Sheikh Dr. Muhammad bin Muhammad Abu Musa. There's Sheikh Fadl Abbas. These at the moment are scholars in the world who are doing a lot on Balagha and focusing a lot on the Quran as well, the Quran aspect. So the Balagha course that I done, I took a lot from their books and from other books and from tafsirs as well, and I prepared a course just purely on Quran, because in reality you only need Balagha for Quran. That's what you need it for, right? So it's just to show the beauty, the structure, how everything works. So that's the course that I designed. So if you really want to study Balagha, the course that I done, it's focused purely on Quran, that is. Otherwise, if you read those books, you can inshallah benefit a lot from them. Okay, brother Ihsanullah, mashallah, jazakallah khair. May Allah, give you happy life as well, and may Allah make me a good person as well, inshallah. Okay, so so then I studied that. Sharh Mullah Al-Jami I studied. Then after that, what I actually done was, on the side, I was actually studying privately with the teacher as well. So my teacher, I used to go, and on Thursdays, we used to have like a weekend, Thursday till Friday evening. So I used to go after class, and I used to go and study by him for 2-3 hours personally. And he would teach me like his own whole of his research on Arabic grammar from all the classical books. So he would teach me like what the early Imam Sibawayh says, what Imam Ibn Jinni says, what Imam Ibn Asfur says, what Imam Zajjaj says, what Imam Ibn Malik says, what Fulan says, what so-and-so says. So he'd give me like a summary of everything that he's done research of in the whole like week or whatever, all his studies, he would summarize. And I consider him to be the most knowledgeable person I've come across, who knows Arabic grammar. So he would teach me all of that. And so, I studied that with him for a good 3 or 4 or 5 years, I think. Yeah, alhamdulillah. So, benefit a lot from a lot of my teachers. Okay, you're going to carry on the videos on Quduri. I'm doing this book and these videos really have. Yeah, I'm a lot. Jazakallah khair, guys, for all the the compliments and all the good words that you've said about the Quduri videos. I really do want to continue them, but the only problem is to make one video. Literally, it used to take me, without exaggeration, probably between 2 to 3 hours just to make like a 7-8 minute video. Yeah, 2 to 3 hours, because it would take me. I'd have to go, and research the material to explain things, and then I'd have to, using the software that I've got isn't really that good. So to put everything together, and then to then having a go at doing it, and then editing it and all of that thing, it takes a very long time. So just make dua, Allah makes it easy for me. I really want to do Quduri, I want to do Hidayah, and I want to do the whole syllabus of like one madhab of fiqh, and then maybe I can move on to another madhab, Maliki madhab, Hanbali madhab, Shafi madhab, in that manner. Cover all that, because when I studied Quduri, for example, I found Quduri extremely difficult to understand. Yeah, generally I find it very difficult because a lot of the things are just like abstract to me. I haven't experienced these things in the Quduri. And I mean, apart from praying salah, fasting, giving zakah maybe on certain things, I didn't do hajj, transactions, I didn't understand it properly, marriage, I didn't understand it properly, inheritance, I didn't understand it properly. So I found it very difficult. So this is why I realized that, students, they need to be able to see something in front of them and have tangible examples to be able to understand. Fiqh, I personally think fiqh should be taught like science is taught. Yeah, hands-on fiqh should be taught. You should take people outside to a pond and show them how a pond water can become dirty, and how pond water, if it's of a certain side, is considered to be clean. Yeah, that's personally what I think, and that's fiqh is understanding. And I find it very difficult for how can a student sitting in a classroom who's never, been exposed to these kind of materials or environments can be able to understand such intricate issues. I find it hard. I know this is one of those questions, but what is the best way a person can learn Arabic in the UK? The best way a person can learn Arabic in the UK, there is possible, yeah. Some people say, no, you have to travel to an Arab country. No, you don't have to. You can do it. I mean, I've taught students. I mean, inshallah, one day I'll get one of my students, I'll do a recording of him, and I'll show you his Arabic, and he can teach in Arabic. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, so it's possible. What you have to do is 3 things you have to do. You need to put lots of effort in. Not just a small amount of effort. You need to put like a lot of effort in. Right, that's the first thing. Number 2 is you need to get yourself a good teacher who's had lots of experience in teaching language. Don't just get someone who knows Arabic, because that's just a delusion, that is. Just because someone knows English doesn't mean they're good at teaching English. Right? So you need someone who can explain things to you properly. And the third thing that you need is you need to immerse yourself regularly in listening skills and speaking and understanding skills. So get in contact with like a brother or someone over Skype and speak with them regularly. You can pay them, you can get these guys from certain countries who are willing to help you out. You pay them a bit, and they'll conversations with you, Arab countries, yeah, and listen to Arab news, listen to Arab programs, films, these kind of things as well. So if you do the 3 things, inshallah, you learn a language. Okay, next question. Where did you study? What is the hardest subject you have come across? I studied in Karachi, in Pakistan, in Karachi. I studied there 9 years. The hardest course study, it's a bit tough, that is. I think the hardest topic I came across was mantiq, philosophy, mantiq, logic and philosophy. These are 2, Islamic logic and Islamic philosophy. These are 2 sciences which I was just really confused about. Yeah, I found those very hard. The rest, they were quite easy. Once I got my head around logic and philosophy, it made sense. But I found those initially quite hard to grasp. Okay, what books would you recommend other than Qasas Nabiyin to pick up vocabulary and understanding different ibarat? You can study Qira'atul Rashida. That's one book, right, written by Abul Hasan Nadawi as well. You can study another series of books that he's written, Mukhtarat, that he's written. You can study Ali Tantawi, a scholar called Ali Tantawi. He's passed away now, Syrian scholar. He's got some very nice books in Arabic, and you just very nice stories, short stories. You've got Ahmad Shawqi as well. He's a very good writer. And I think what you want to get is you want to kind of benefit from not just the writing in Arabic, you want to benefit from the culture as well. So try to get a book which exposes you to Arab culture, because Arab culture is very important if you want to know how to speak to people. So like, for example, I can give you some examples in Arabic and you can go through them, but if it's not based on Arab culture, if it's just like Zayd is sitting under the tree eating an apple, well, that's not necessarily unique to Arab culture. You need to get things that Arabs are used to, which will give you an understanding of how you contextualize their books. Okay, what's the best way to recommend other concepts? Yeah, so that's basically, alhamdulillah, how I studied, and I thought I'd just make this because some of you guys have asked, because you're studying or you're intending to embark on studying Arabic grammar, and it's not difficult. Get yourself a partner. Get yourself a group. If you know, like a WhatsApp group or something. Okay, get yourself a WhatsApp group or Telegram group, and get some like-minded people that you can chat with. Yeah, start practicing. And a lot of students, what tends to happen is they feel extremely shy of practicing their Arabic, and they'll just do those one or two jokes like anta himar, yeah, one of those ones, yeah, anta kalb, yeah, and these kind of that's fine, it's good as long as it makes you write and read Arabic. That's good. So what you can need to do is focus on that. Yeah, try and I do personally at the moment. I do practice with people on WhatsApp as well. I make a group and I text them and in Arabic, and I improve my own Arabic skills because I try to think of like a recent expression that I've come across in a book, and I want to try and apply that in my own way. Yeah, so I benefit a lot from it, and it also helps you because you have to understand it on the spot. So it kind of puts you on the spot, so you learn quicker. So it's actually a very, very powerful way of learning. Mantiq, do you know any books that explain Mantiq in English? There actually are books. There's a book which is written by a nun. It's an English book. Logic is called. I can't remember the name of it, but you can actually Google it. You'll find Logic, Platon, is it called Platonian logic or something like that. Logic is basically from the Greeks. Philosophy and logic came from the Greeks. So there's lots of people who have written on the topic, in different languages. So you can get it. Okay, what's the difference between Qasas al-Nabiyyin and Qasas al-Anbiya? Yeah, Qasas al-Nabiyyin is basically written for kids. Yeah, it's written by Abu Hassan Nadawi, and he wrote it for like a kids audience. Like, you can imagine primary school. That's what it's written for, really, Arabs. And you see gradually they start to become more and more difficult as you go through. And once you get to the 5th volume, which is the Seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, that becomes quite hard. If you can understand that 5th volume of Qasas, you're very good in Arabic. Okay, what's the next step after completing 17 lessons? Okay, after completing the 17 lessons with me, there's other courses that I've got. So I've got Surah Yasin course where I implement all the rules in Surah Yasin and add more rules. There's also the Tarkib and I'rab course that you can do applying the rules into hadith, short hadith. Yeah, there's that as well. And there's lots of free material on my YouTube channel as well, inshallah. Okay, what techniques or ways have you come across as helpful in learning to speak Arabic? Do you advise with reading dialogues? Because everyone's different, I can't really speak on everyone's behalf. But personally, what I find really, really beneficial is when I'm put in a situation where I have to speak to someone who is not going to explain something to me in anything else except Arabic. Yeah, so that's if you really want to understand Arabic, what you guys need to do is get yourself someone to explain something to you. Try and speak to them. Like, for example, explain how you would make a cup of tea in Arabic. So, for example, you say some of this. أولا أدخل المطبخ أخذ الكأس وأفتح الحنفية أملأ الكأس بالماء أو أسكب الماء في القدر وأضع القدر على الفرن ثم أشعل النار في الفرن بالكبريت في الصندوق. So try and become more detailed. So if you say I light the matches, try and mention which matches. Yeah. And if you like a stove, describe the stove. Like الفرن الكبير الذي وضع بجانب الثلاجة في المطبخ لونه أسود. Yeah. وهو من hot point or لا أدري. Yeah. So try and become more descriptive in how you say things, right? And don't tend to, usually what happens is when you speak Arabic, you're probably gonna regurgitate the same 20 sentences again and again and again. So you're in your own pool and you're not benefiting from the outside. So you got to put yourself in situations. So one day explain how to make tea. One day try and explain how the imam, explained something in Jummah. One day try and explain how the postman had a conversation with the postman. So if you put yourself in these situations, you become more exposed and you start learning quicker. That's what I find personally. Can't understand much. It's quite tough in the 5th book. Yeah, the 5th book is very hard. I would say that, yeah, definitely. And I would say, if you had like grades of different levels of Arabic books, if you put all the books into 10 grades, I would say the 5th book easily comes between 7 and 8. Yeah, 7, 8, maybe even 9, I would say, some parts of it. Yeah, so, it is like that. Okay, would you recommend learning Arabic from a university or find a private teacher? I haven't really seen all the universities to be able to really give my own opinion about that. So I don't really feel as though I can say how the universities teach. It depends. I'm sure there's some universities that teach Arabic very good. It depends on the teacher. I know there's some universities who just waste the time. Yeah, you pay the money and you'll cover a certain syllabus, and as soon as you've covered that syllabus, that's it. You're on your way, whether you've learnt or not. It's like one of those, those martial arts kind of clubs that all they want is the money, and they'll just grade you. That's it. You've done this much, right? You got the green belt. All right, next you got the yellow belt. Or next you got the red belt. Yeah, next you got the black belt. Yeah. So that it all depends. If you private teacher's good. Remember this. Private teacher is good if you can get a stable teacher, right? A stable teacher, and you've got stable students as well. Otherwise, if you don't have a stable teacher, you don't have stable students, what will happen is classes will be broken. You'll have some days the teacher will say, oh, sorry, I can't make it. Some days the students say, I can't make it. And then it just becomes a big problem for you. That's the problem with private tuition. Okay. Do you teach any online course for Dars Nizami? At the moment, I don't do private lessons. But if there's a good audience out there and there's people, and inshallah possibly in the future. At the moment the problem is because of my work, the work I do, I'm just too busy. It's just takes up a lot of my time and a lot of preparation I have to make for lessons. And I teach daily. I probably teach 7-8 subjects a day. So you can imagine how much preparation I have to make for those. So if I compromise them and I start teaching other things, then it's not really fair. Okay, do you have any recommendations for books for young people? Okay, so brother Muhammad Siam's asking for young people. Yeah, there's if you actually go on, you can go YouTube. There's lots of these very, very easy to follow cartoons. They're very kind of religiously orientated as well, topics like patience and these kind of things. And there's a series that you can get of very easy reading books, that you get in the infant school and primary school, secondary school, the different grades of books. You can actually get them. Yeah, you can get them on one page, a big picture and 2 or 3 lines, and then it kind of increases as the student progresses. You can get that definitely. And the thing with kids is kids will learn much quicker than adults. Remember that. And they learn a lot just from how you explain things to them from a book. Have you studied any of the Ibn Hisham's books on grammar? I haven't studied it, but I've read it. Yeah, Ibn Mughni Ibn Hisham. Yeah, I've read that. Any basic books on grammar you advise? So basic books on grammar, again, what I would suggest for you is to go into studying Arabic grammar, the basics from a teacher. Explain it. You can do the 17 lessons. The 17 lessons are going to start in March, the 5th of March on Sundays. So that's going to be advertised soon. I've only got 9 places on that course. But some of the you guys have done that course with me or are doing that course with me, and you can see how beneficial it is that you kind of within 3 months yeah, you start to be able to appreciate the Arabic in the Quran on its own, and you can work out Surah Fatiha and the beginning of Surah Baqarah, the grammatical rules. Yeah, so that's what I would then after that go into an Arabic. That's my personal suggestion. But if you do want a basic book, yeah, there's loads. I'm doing a course on every Thursday on my Facebook, and if you go on my YouTube channel, you can see the Ajurrumiya. That's a very basic book. You can follow that. I've done 18 lessons so far. Was it 19? And just you follow through them. You can watch them all. They're only like half an hour each. Yeah, and that's my personal few things I mentioned. Now there is this one book I've brought here. See where I teach, they teach this book as well. Yeah, and I've taught this book. It's called Tasheel al-Nahu. Yeah, Tasheel al-Nahu. So it was originally a book that was written in Urdu. It was translated to English. So this is, if you ask me about this book, it covers a lot of Nahu, yeah, the major topics, but I'm not really happy with this kind of book, because you see what it does? It takes a beginner, and then all of a sudden it will take you as though you're an intermediate, and then all of a sudden to a beginner, then all of a sudden it expects you to be an advanced. So it's a kind of one of those bumpy kind of roads, and then a student kind of doesn't really appreciate Arabic grammar through this book because the way it's structured. Again, it all depends on how the teacher explains it. So I don't really like teaching this book. So at the moment I'm writing my own book on Arabic grammar, which is like A to Z of Arabic grammar that a student needs to cover, and it's designed for someone that's done some basic Arabic grammar, but it covers everything that you need to cover. Sometimes in Arabic grammar you haven't covered like mustaqar or thabit, like a hidden word inside, yeah, or a word coming before another word, and these kind of things, the amils and the different types of masdars. So you don't really get this in one book sometimes. So it becomes quite a headache when you're reading one book and you've covered like 3 or 4 Arabic grammar books, and then all of a sudden you read a tafsir and it says this is a dhamir mustaqar, yeah, or what's that? I haven't covered that. Yeah, so then you've got to go to another book to find out what he's talking about. So what I've done is I've gone through several books, and I've made this book, and I'm going through it at the moment, so it's complete. The only thing that it needs now is lots of examples, so I'm fitting all the examples in, and alhamdulillah, I've covered more than half of it, and I'm thinking of trying to get someone to be my guinea pig, yeah, if that's a nice word to use, to apply it to practice it on, so I can weed out any problems I have, and change the structure of it as well. So that's something which inshallah I'm working on at the moment, but because of all my commitments, I'm trying to write about 3 or 4 books at once, and teaching, and I got all these things I gotta do, and so it's a bit hectic. Alhamdulillah. Okay guys, so anything else, any other questions that you might have? Okay, so jazakallah khair for mashallah your company, and maybe inshallah I can do one of these live stream videos some other time, and if you got any other questions you can write them questions down, keep them for that time, and then you can ask me. So today I covered with you the Arabic grammar that I've studied, and all the books that I've really covered, and I've read lots of books besides that, and the other books, maybe fiqh I can talk about, maybe I can talk about hadith or mantiq even, or some other subjects. Jazakumullah khair, brother Ihsanullah. Jazakumullah khair. You're welcome, brother. You're welcome, brother Kazim. Jazakumullah khair. Alhamdulillah. Alright guys, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.